Welcome. This is the Fright Club podcast.
I'm Hope Madden.
And I'm George Wolf, and we're from madwolf.com. And we've been doing this time machine thing, having the best horror movies of certain decades. We're going to bring that up a little bit closer to today. But before we did, we wanted to talk about a brand new horror movie that just opened this weekend. It's pretty solid.
Unfriended. And I don't think that we had super high expectations because it just looked like another teenage online found footage, but it's clever, it's well written, it's well executed given the high concept.
Yeah, it is a real high concept. Everything happens on a computer screen. Skype calls, or doing searches, or doing instant messaging, whatever. And that's a big concept.
Yeah, the entire movie is you're watching one girl's laptop screen. That's what you're watching. And you know what? They do a nice job keeping you interested. The performances are all really very strong. Everybody develops some layers to their personality and the characters, which you don't expect, given that they don't even leave the screen.
Right. I guess the downside is it's not that scary.
No, it's not really super scary, but it's well written, it's well acted, it's creepy, spooky. I mean, there were girls screaming in my audience when I saw it, so if you're young, it might scare you.
Yeah, I mean,
it's not likely to scare a veteran.
People are scared by different things, but it's not really that terrifying, but it is well done, and seems to be getting a pretty good reception, so check it out. It's brand new in the theaters. I think this past weekend, Unfriended. All right, so we go back to, we did the 60s, we did the 70s, we did the 80s, the 90s, and all that time, we're thinking, what did we think before this? That the 70s we thought were the best decade?
Yeah, I definitely thought that going into this without sort of cataloging the way that we have in this exercise. And I have to say that I changed my mind completely.
Yeah.
There were so many incredibly good horror films in the first decade of the 2000s. I cannot get over it. In all of the other decades, there was usually 3 solid no doubters, and then 1 or 2 that you weren't really sure. There were 10 no doubters for this, and then another 10 that I had to weep to cut out. I mean, this was the hardest one to put together, I think.
Yeah, and it always makes you think. You look at the movies during a particular time, and you think, okay, what was going on politically, sociologically, to bring those horror movies to the forefront. So there was a lot going on in the first decade of the 2000s to bring these types of horror movies to the forefront. So we're going to get to that. We have, as you said, so many that could have made the list.
And you know what? We got a ton of good thoughts as to what to add to the list. But before we do that, though, actually, just in the last week or so, we got a lot of feedback on a whole bunch of the other countdowns. For example, on Facebook, another actually Columbus film critic, Todd LaPlace, he didn't really take issue with our choices for the 70s. He just wondered, maybe were you a little strident in your thoughts about
PJ Souls, which, you know what, might be a complete an entire separate episode one of these days of our Fright Club. Yeah.
You know what, though? There is an entire army of people who are in love with PJ Souls because, not of her horror movies, but because Rock and Roll High School. She's the main character in the Ramones classic Rock and Roll High School, and there are people who love her.
Just as annoying. I'm sorry. No, Todd, I appreciate that. I know, maybe I'm out there with it, but she just like the blueberry pancake girl in Pulp Fiction. Drives me up a wall.
Fabienne. You know, like Fabienne.
But no, so that was funny, Todd. I appreciate that. PJ Souls, I got issues. But
in our 80s, we got a little knock from our friend Craig, who is also our boss over at ScreenRelish.com, and he's a huge horror fan, and he's a little tired of us taking. I was wondering when somebody's gonna ding us on this pot shots at the movie The Fog. Mm-hmm. He wants us to quit it, so we apologize, because that's actually also another unusually popular film. It's just we don't care for it.
They were pirates.
They were leper pirates.
Just like in It. It's a spider. Oh. Come on. Although the clown, awesome.
They're remaking it. I have to say, though, I can't possibly imagine a better Pennywise than Tim
Curry?
No, I can't.
Great.
So anyway, I'm nervous about that. So, and then on to the 90s. Some new friends, these are both also from Facebook. Bridget Oliver and Adam Lowe had a couple of really, really, really good thoughts about what we left off the 90s. She brought up Kronos, which is so fun. That is a great movie. That's a great movie. And then he brought up, which is the eternally underappreciated Exorcist 3.
Yeah. We've talked about that before because it is so solid, especially when you think about the travesty that was Exorcist 2. You have to forget that entirely. And to its credit, Exorcist 3 does forget that entirely.
Yeah.
So let's just pretend that didn't happen.
I got to say, on the whole, I think there are a lot of problems with Exorcist 3, but there are like 4 or 5 or 6 or even more incredibly scary moments in that film. Just terrifying moments in that film that makes everything else. Yeah, makes everything else worth it.
Good comment there. And then moving into the 2000s. We got some nice comments. So Bridget again talked about The Orphanage, which is a movie that we love.
Yeah.
And then moving into today's podcast, we got some great recommendations for things that people are hoping to see. And I'll tell you what, they're good ones. Adam H. I don't want to try your last name because I'll butcher it. Adam is suggesting Martyrs.
Oh my God, I love
Very
Martyrs.
nice.
And Bridget again. The Orphanage. How much do we love The Orphanage?
Yeah, The Orphanage.
You know what?
Is
George
great.
got up and almost saved a woman's life during the screening of The Orphanage. Do you remember that?
No.
You don't remember that? That
What
woman,
happened?
she like passed out at the screening. They stopped the movie and you ran up to see if she needed any assistance. Do you remember that?
Well, I think almost saving her life might be a bit of hyperbole, but I'll take it.
Anyway.
I do remember that now. Yeah, they did. But that's a great movie.
Oh, it is a great movie. And then Craig, again, he had literally like 15
And you know what? While
recommendations. And most of them are great ones. And I want to point out a couple. The Mist.
The Mist, yeah.
That is one that bombed when it came out wrongly, and it has really, really developed momentum since then, and it's a great one. The Mist, Frailty, one of my absolute favorites. God, I love that movie. Nice pick, Craig. And then he also wants to talk about something that we're not going to.
Yeah, it's it's funny, though, going back to The Mist, I was just flipping channels the last few weeks and stumbled upon the end of The Mist, which is really good, really solid.
Oh, yeah. I also think it's the reason people didn't like it when it came out.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so, but it's one of the reasons that it's only, so many movies don't age well.
Yeah.
It ages well.
It does, really.
And you realize that. And I think maybe, at least for me, I was one that probably dismissed it at the time a little too easily. But looking back on it now, like, yeah, that's pretty well done.
Yeah,
and the ending is very, makes you think.
You know what? I think creature features are hard to do. And Stephen King adaptations, there are way more bad ones than good ones.
We are not a kid.
And but no, The Mist is a great one. He also brings up another really great movie that we're going to kind of loop in with something that did make the list, but the Dawn of the Dead remake, we love that one.
Yeah.
We love that one.
Yeah, so thank you
fun.
so much. I love this feedback. I love to keep it rolling. You can always get a hold of us at Mad Wolf on Twitter. We've got the
2 Ds.
2 Ds, yeah. We've got the Facebook page as well, which if you just search on it, it's Mad Wolf Columbus.
Right.
Since we're based in Columbus, Ohio. So,
or you can leave comments right on the Golden Spiral Media blog.
Yeah.
You can, there's a ton of ways.
The point is, it's fun. And to keep talking about this, and we appreciate it. So, brings us up to the top 5, our top 5, hard-fought top 5 for the first 10 years of the 2000s.
Yes. I want to take a minute, though, because in mourning, I want to mention really quickly the 5 movies that didn't make it.
Yeah, they're good.
That's the thing. I mean, I love these 5 movies. I love these 5 movies deeply, and so and a couple of them you may have never heard of, and so you need to. So I'm just going to go through them really quickly, no particular order. 2008's Eden Lake, Michael Fassbender, Jack O'Connell,
who's now everywhere.
Yeah,
he was a star of Unbroken and also 71, which is out now. That kind of flying under the radar, but still, he's so hot right now. Derek Zoolander. No, Hansel. But yeah,
and he is magnificent in this movie, and it's a great, really hard to watch, really well done movie. So if you haven't checked out Eden Lake, you should do that. Also, we're sorry, Bridget, The Orphanage didn't make the list, but it is so good that we have to mention it.
That just shows you how good this decade is, because a movie like that, and there was a time I was fighting for it. I wanted it in there.
Yeah.
So good, and such a great atmosphere from start to finish in that movie.
Yeah.
So well done. From another one from 2008, Martyrs.
Yeah, and Adam, we apologize that it didn't make the list. If you love Martyrs, and we do, though, hop over to screenrelish.com. Once every so often every Saturday they have something called the Saturday Screamer, and last week I wrote it, and I wrote Martyrs, partly out of guilt that it didn't make this list, but because it's
goes
so
along
great.
With the movie, doesn't it? Your Catholic guilt.
It's so great, and you know what? Like The Mist, the ending is pretty controversial. Although to me, boy, could not have ended any better. Just like The Mist, couldn't have ended any better. I love the movie Martyrs.
Where did we just see somebody commented online?
Bridget did.
Oh, yeah.
It's too bad. Yeah.
It's too bad we don't know.
Oh, no, don't say it in case people don't, in case they haven't seen it.
All right. But it's similar. Can we say it's similar to the end of Lost in Translation?
Yes,
can we
I think
say
so.
that? Okay.
I think we can.
All right, we'll go there. And also another one, this scary and creepy and weird, Calvaire, otherwise known as The Ordeal from 2004.
Oh, my God, so great. And we have talked about that one before in our Cabin in the Woods. I think that was the podcast, but it was, Calvaire. Very few people have seen it. You need to check it out. Weirdest day in sequence ever.
We actually featured it as one of our Fright Club big screen events here in town, and didn't get as big of a crowd as we had hoped, but because that's one that you really have to be into horror movies to know about and to realize that, I've got a chance to see this on the big screen. Let me take it. So.
Oh, yeah. It's so good. So if you haven't seen it, and you probably haven't, Calvaire. And then also, we apologize, Craig, that Frailty did not make the final 10 cut, but it is so good that it has to be mentioned. And it's another one. Bill Paxton, we're toast, game over. Bill Paxton directed this movie so beautifully.
Yeah. Has he directed something since?
I don't think so.
Because that showed he should.
Yeah. He also directed the Fish Heads video. Remember that song? He directed that.
Yeah. So, that just shows you how good, as I've said before, how good this decade is, because those are all 5 quality titles.
I love those movies so much.
So, all right. So that's just bubbling under. Didn't quite make it. All right, well, we're going to admit it right from the beginning. We're going to cheat right away because
cheaters.
We have 2 number 5s, and our first number 5 is Wolf Creek.
What the bloody hell are you mob doing out here? Scared the shit out of me.
So, what do you actually do?
I can tell you, but then I'd have to kill you.
Let's play.
2005, Outback Horror, and what a great one. And as I've said a million times, just like Silence of the Lambs benefited from you put the best actor in the villain role. That's what you do. That's why this movie works.
John Jarrett.
Brilliant. So creepy. So, homespun, get to know me. I'm a good guy.
Get to know me.
Do you want to play head on a stick? Oh my God, he could not be any better. And the movie benefits from an investment in the characters. A lot of people complained about it when it first came out because you go a long time before anything scary happens because they want you to like these people and care what happens to them. It's very important, and it pays off.
Yeah, director Greg McLean just uses the expansive setting of the Outback.
Yep.
They're out there in the middle of nowhere.
Couldn't be more isolated.
And then all of a sudden, they're at that spot that kills their watches and kills their car battery. And who's Johnny Friendly there to help you out? Yeah, old
and
Mick.
His big old creepy truck.
Yeah, and he's so great in this. And, even though it gets very brutal.
It does.
I'm not going to put it in the horror porn type of movie because it's not to me. That's not the only thing this movie exists to do.
No.
And I remember, was it Roger Ebert before he passed? Gave this a 0.
Yeah.
Said it's just not worth it.
Said it was a borderline snuff film.
Yeah.
Simultaneously, I reviewed it for the other paper, and I gave it 4 stars. and I'm sure
that's the
it
difference.
affected just as many people as his review.
It's the difference between you and Roger Ebert. But no, it's one that we've talked about before, and we love it. It's so well done. It just gets you to your core, especially how it ends, really. And then when you think about it was based on some real events,
right.
And then if you've taken the time to maybe do any looking up online about the real events that led to it, yikes.
Yeah.
So, it's brutal. It takes a while, like you said, to get to the action, but it's worth it.
Oh, yes.
And there are especially if you happen to see it again, there's some foreshadowing along the way about what's coming, and it's so well done that you might not catch the first time you see it. Mm-hmm. But then when remember this, remember that. So that's why we cheated. And you know what? We're just going to not even go to the judges. We're going to declare that that's okay.
Yep.
Just another example of how many great movies there are in this decade to focus on.
So I guess on to our next number 5.
Yeah, second number 5.
So who are you?
Wake up today in hospital. I wake up and I'm hallucinating.
Got some bad news.
They're infected.
Infected!
Father.
Infected with nuts!
Oh, I shouldn't have done that.
The blood. There's something in the blood. to leave now. You'll be coming. They always do.
Oh, yeah, creepy. 28 days later.
Ooh, Danny Boyle can direct a horror movie, can he?
He can. He really can. It's just from the very beginning. He sets that, as I said, just about the orphanage, that atmosphere.
Oh, yeah.
The isolation. At first he thinks he's the last person on Earth. It seems like he is. And then starts finding out.
And then he talks to the priest. Don't talk to the priest.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Get away from that priest, Cillian Murphy.
Yeah, and it's so well done. The cast is good. It's scary as zombie movies go, but it's also kind of a fresh take on the zombie genre with a great director like Danny Boyle.
Yeah, it is, because technically they're not zombies, because technically they're not dead.
That's right, you're right.
And that was sort of the thing that made it okay in the zombie lore that they were fast moving, because they're not dead. That's what's awesome. That is really what makes this movie so terrifying, is that they run. Oh my God, so great. And actually, we mentioned the remake of Dawn of the Dead, and there were some complaints that the remake of Dawn of the Dead, they were fast moving, and the idea is, well, they're dead, they can't move fast. But let's be honest, they're dead, they can't do any of these things. Get over it.
but think about that though, because 28 Days Later really set that. Hey, you can have this. Let's do this. We also saw it in World War Z.
Oh yeah, well yeah. Actually, after those two films, it became commonplace.
Yeah,
right. I mean, it would almost be solely comedy horrors still use the slow-moving zombie. If you want a scary movie with a zombie, they got to move fast now. Yeah. And it was the success of those two really excellent films that made that happen. And Danny Boyle, he took a lot of ideas, as anybody with a zombie movie, even if it's not really zombie, from Romero, because this takes a lot of ideas from the Romero film The Crazies more than it does his actual zombie movies, because. Well, it just does. I mean, if you haven't seen The Crazies, this is very similar to that, except that it's just a rage virus as opposed to being, a crazy virus. But also that the bigger problem isn't the monsters, it's what's left of the government. Sure. And that's, sort of the organized. And that's one of the things that made it so terrifying, the film so terrifying, is when they finally get, respite and relief, it's even worse.
Right.
And, oh my God, is it bad? Oh, wow. And the performances are so great. Brendan Gleeson, God, I love him in everything.
Yeah, he's great in everything.
He's so great in this movie.
Yeah.
It's just magnificent. It's and a game changer.
Yeah, and that takes us back to what we were saying a little bit ago. Just when zombie type movies become popular, become prevalent, look at what's going on in society, and there's a good clue as to why that is. And I think that is the case here as well, because it's early on. It's 2002. It's early on, just after the 2000s, and it set that in motion for a type of movie that things about this, like the fast zombies, that were going to be copied in other zombie type movies, and very well done. Because a movie like World War Z, which I thought was good, used it, and you're talking about the other Dawn of the Dead and those type remakes used it. I love it, the fact that they're fast. It adds a totally different take on it and just updates it. So. Yeah, 28 Days Later at number 5, and then we move on again from 2002. See, that's a good start to the decade. From 2002, The Ring.
Have you heard about this videotape that kills you when you watch it? You start to play it, and it's like somebody's nightmare. And as soon as it's over, your phone rings. And what they say is, you will die in 7 days. I watched the tape.
Yeah, we talked about this one before a couple of podcasts ago, and it's so solid, so well done. And the thing I think a lot of people forget is it was rated PG-13.
I know. I mean,
and so scary.
It was. It's a scary film.
It is.
Their faces. The tape, and then, of course, just her climbing out of that TV. Oh my God. Plus just the tension that it builds.
Yeah, going back to the tape, and I wrote a feature for ScreenRelish.com when they were spotlighting your favorite things, scary moments in movies. And I've said from the beginning that the thing that really holds this movie together is the tape.
Yeah.
Because when you base your entire movie around a videotape that will kill you, that if you're going to show that tape, and you should, that has to be good. It has to. And boy, that tape is freaky.
It is.
All put together by all those little moments, which you kind of find out later what those moments mean.
Right.
A lot of them.
Yeah, right.
But the first time you look at it, you just, ooh, that's weird.
Right.
And so whoever came up with that whole montage, well done, because to me, that movie rises and falls on how creepy that video is, and it looks like a tape that once you watch it, oh yeah, that could give me some sort of curse.
Yeah. I think the same with Danny Boyle. When you get a really great director, not necessarily a genre director, but a really great director, and attach him to a horror movie, you get a better movie.
Yeah. Oh, sure.
And Gore Verbinski is,
yeah.
And just the way he sequences events and the way where he edits and how he just focuses things. And I've said so many times that lighthouse where the light just keeps coming around. It's just so many things about this movie are just pitch perfect the way they are filmed.
Yeah. The colors, when she goes, you think about scenes like when she's on the boat with the horse.
Oh my God, the horse thing, that whole horse thing.
Yeah, the colors that the whole screen is bathed in when she goes to that part of the country and goes to see Brian Cox and all that. And, of course, down in the well and all that stuff. It looks the part. You mentioned her climbing out of the TV. And it's funny, here in the last couple of weeks, if you've been on the internet, you've probably seen there's been pictures going around about that girl, what she looks like now. I don't know if you've seen that, and how pretty she is now.
Well, she was a cute little girl, which is one of the reasons why it works so well. There's this little cherubic, chubby-faced girl.
And, of course, if you don't know, that was a man climbing out of the TV. But still.
It was very effective.
It was very effective. And when it was her, she still looked pretty darn creepy.
Yeah, no.
So well done. Yeah, The Ring from 2002. And that's a good point about directors, because when you bring in a good director into any new genre, we've seen that. One of the ones that comes to mind for me is that Hannah with Saoirse Ronan.
Yeah.
That director who directed that had done like Atonement and these very high Pride and Prejudice things. And then, man, he knocked that out of the park. It was an action movie.
Yeah.
Because it's a good director, can bring new types of sensibilities to a genre they haven't worked in before. And that's the case here. You can say, boy, he's a solid director, and no matter what the genre is. And that one works. That was so good. At number 4 is The Ring.
At number 3 is one of my very favorites. We've talked about it a couple of times already, so we'll keep this brief. And I'm not sure George would have this quite so high, but I love it. So it sits at number 3, The Loved Ones.
Will you go to the dance with me?
Sorry, Lola. I'm going with Holly.
I'm going to stab Holly in the heart, just like you did to me.
Yeah, from 2009, the Australian import. So our Golden Spiral Media compatriot there, Corey, is going to love that, because we love the Australian horror movies.
Oh, we're going to have to do a whole show on them.
Yeah.
We are. In fact, you know what? Maybe he could join us. That would be fun.
All right, Corey, we'll get with you. But
we've committed you now.
You love this one, more than I do. Not saying I don't,
no,
because
I know that you do.
But I might not have it in the top 5, although it is really well done, and it all comes back to the performance of the lead actress.
Oh my God, Robin McLeavy, so wrong.
Wow.
So great.
She's so
God,
good.
she's so good. She's so good.
And we have talked about it before, but it's centered around like a prom in high school, and she gets turned down by the boy she asked, the popular kid in school, and she doesn't like that. And
her dad helps her out.
She and her dad, and they have this relationship that is a little creepy. And they kidnap him and torture him, and you find out that they have a history of doing this, and she is just unhinged.
Oh, she is.
And her performance.
Oh my God! And she sings that song, and they play, and she's got this pink dress on.
Casey Chambers song, following the Australian theme.
And it's perfect. It's a perfect song for that.
We saw her in concert one time.
We did. She opened up for Lucinda Williams.
Opened up for Lucinda Williams. Yeah, that was her big kind of hit. The one that they Am I Not Pretty Enough?
Yeah.
And that's the one that
which they used to perfect effect in this movie.
So
but
great.
Then also, and it is a thing where I didn't fully appreciate the direction until I'd seen the movie several times, because you are so compelled by Lola, her the character and her performance and everything. But it really looks awesome. What he does in the change in visuals, like you were saying, the color, and then the way he frames, especially when this pink dress just keeps coming. Oh, it looks great. It's incredibly well written.
Yeah.
It's so weird because it's just carnage, but it's crazy and it's almost comical, but creepy comical.
Yep.
The performances are just spot on. It's also it's got a heart to it, but it's not schmaltzy in any way. It's just a really well done film. One of my favorites.
There is some comedy, and a lot of it has to do. There's a little side plot about another couple that goes to the prom. This kind of a nerdy guy who's afraid to ask this real hardcore goth chick to the prom. And then she says yes, and then their time at the prom is so different from the other guy's time at the prom. But they get some comedy out of that. But you're right, it's not. I'm not going to call this a comedy horror movie at all.
No.
But there are comedic elements that work. Mm-hmm. And she is just relentless. She is so good. Has she, Robin McLean? Has she?
She's on the TV show Hell on Wheels. I don't even know if that's still a TV show, but I know she's on it.
All right,
I've never seen it. But
yeah, we don't watch TV really.
No.
Because we're watching all these movies.
That's right.
But she's fantastic. And one of your, I know, you'll stop people on the street and talk to them about this movie. And that checks in at number 3, The Loved Ones.
Now we're going to go a little bigger budget, a little more popular, something that you've no doubt heard of and seen, but a classic at number 2.
There's only one way out of this chamber, and that's down the pipe.
This is not good, guys.
Can we get out of here? Which way?
I don't know.
Is there anybody there?
The Descent from 2005, and real quickly, you got to tell the story about showing it to your sister.
Oh, yeah. My older sister, actually, it's just a given thing. My siblings, my nieces and nephews, like when you come to see me, we watch a scary movie. It's just sort of, that's just sort of what you do. And my older sister, Julianne, God love her, she's not a huge fan of scary movies. Everybody lets me pick. So I try to pick things that I think that she will like. For example, like The Innocents. She would love that movie. Things like that. Well, the reason I picked The Descent is because she makes it out at the end. And it's all women and but they're not treated. It's not an exploitation film. It's a well done movie. It's super, super scary. Well, the thing is, I got the DVD and it has the original Scottish release, and she doesn't make it out of the original Scottish release. So you go through all of that, and in the end, she just dies wishing she was with her dead daughter. Oh my God, my sister about beat the hell out of me. So anyway, there are 2 versions that you can watch.
And of course, with that original ending, you don't really have the sequel that we came back for. But yeah, it's really, really well done. The group of women, of course, the one has lost her husband and daughter in that car accident, which really set you off balance right from the beginning.
Right, yeah.
Remember?
Yes.
They're driving through, and then boom, that accident happens, and that just shocks you right from the beginning. And then the women get together. They try to make her feel better with these outings that they have. And they end up going into this cave.
Spelunking.
They find out later, no one knows about it. The one hardcore girl, Juno, is trying to make them be credited with finding this cave. It's not on anybody's map. So then they find out, of course, that they're not alone down there.
There are several things that make this movie really, really great. And one of them is that, these aren't Green Berets. They're not incompetents either, but they're not Green Berets. So you can feel like they're a vehicle into the film for you. This is slightly above average. This is the kind of thing they do, but they don't do it professionally. They're going to be, so you feel like you know them. You can relate to them in a way you can't relate to something like Green Berets, or that's a bad term to use because I'm sure Green Berets don't spelunk, but you know what I mean? Real pros.
Right.
And then the other thing is that before you even know there are monsters, Neil Marshall, the director, has wrung you out with she's caught, and I'm claustrophobic. I'm profoundly claustrophobic. So I was exhausted before we even saw, because they're all tight and they're
when she almost gets caught,
she can't get through, and they have to go back for her, and then there's the bone snap. So I was just wrung out before we even saw a monster. I'm like, oh my God, and there's monsters. I was so giddy when I finished the screening. I wrote the review for this years ago for a newspaper we used to write for, the other paper, and I can't remember another time I left a screening more just excited about the movie that I had just seen.
Except for the first Paul Blart. Yeah, and you also have to give a credit to what the monsters looked like.
Yeah, they look great.
They're great, and the noises that they made.
Yeah.
And how they, couldn't tell. Remember when the one walked right over her?
Yeah.
Not knowing she was there because she covered herself up. Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah, really.
And they develop without, going into a lot of detail. It seemed like a very realistic, what they looked like, how they behaved, how they organized. There were women, there were children. I mean, just the whole, it just seemed reasonable, as opposed to other, it's a creature feature. As other ones, you're like, oh, whatever. But this, you're like, no, this could, like, again, though, this is my hand to God, I would rather take a bullet than go spelunking. So it's not like this is a fear I actually have, but I would believe this would happen if you go spelunking.
Yeah, so well done. At number 2, The Descent from 2005, which brings us to number 1, and it's from 2008. Oh, well, foreign film, so we couldn't give you a little clip there, but that's the music from it, and Let the Right One In. Love it. Love it so much.
And how hard a choice was that, man?
It was hard. It was hard.
But that just goes to show you how great this movie is.
Yeah, and I think I'm with this movie sort of like you are for The Loved Ones, although I know you love this movie too. But I love this so much. I also love the remake, Let Me In, which was from 2010, partly because I was so worried they were just going to screw it up.
Yeah.
I didn't want it even to be done. Don't do it.
No.
But it was so well done. So we recommend that one too. But yeah, Let the Right One In. It's a twist, another take on the vampire genre, which we've commented before, can be overdone except when it's done right.
Right.
Then when it's done right, please come in.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's based on a novel, and it sets the vampire as a young girl, of course, who obviously never ages, and she ends up making a new friend, a young boy. And there's so much going on. It's not just the blood, because there is blood of a horror movie, but it's also the relationship between the two. How it grows, what each character is getting from that relationship, what the young girl vampire is thinking she's going to get from this relationship in the future, because she has a caretaker that helps her get victims, and maybe he's getting a little old, and maybe she needs someone to replace him, that sort of thing. And it just works on a friendship, the awkwardness of that time of life, being bullied.
Well, I think, at its heart, it's a coming-of-age film.
Yeah.
And an incredibly well-done one.
Oh.
And, and I think they're, between the two, each one has certain strengths that the other doesn't have. I feel like the caretaker angle is actually mined better in the remake than in the original.
Yeah.
But I feel in the novel, and the novelist did the screenplay for the original, the female vampire is not, in fact, a female. She's sexless. And I think that they do a really fascinating job with the concept of androgyny in the original.
In the original. Not in the remake.
No.
But in the original. That is a very good point.
And it's Lena Lee Anderson is the name of the girl who plays
great.
the vampire. Oh, she's so good. She's so good. And then Oscar with that blonde Prince Valiant haircut. Oh my God! And the movie is
it's setting. It's cold. It's snowy.
You're
it's
so
bleak.
uncomfortable the whole time. You're physically uncomfortable watching the movie because they just look so cold. And I think that really adds an atmosphere to. It speaks to just the awkwardness of that age, and especially of Oscar.
But there are also some very nice tips of the hat, you could say, to classic vampire elements like. The vampire can't come in your house unless it's invited.
That's such a great scene.
That's such a great scene.
And, it works on an emotional level because by that time, you like this girl.
Yeah. And then when, in the bathroom, when he shuts the door, when she's... I love that scene.
It's a great scene.
When that's when she knows he's on her side for good because he's going to walk away and not that he could have saved this victim, but he doesn't even try.
No.
Like, that's what you do, and I'm going to be... a party to it.
Well, and she repays him.
She does repay him.
Yeah, and
love that.
That's, I think that scene might have been the topper for me. The scene in the swimming pool might have been the reason that this got the top spot for me. It is
so great.
So incredibly well done from start to finish. Everything about that scene in the swimming pool. It's one of my favorite scenes in horror movies of all time.
It's great. And again, another, compliment to the remake, because I was wondering, were they going to do that shot for shot because it's such a great scene? They don't. And I'm not saying they improve on it, but they don't detract from it either. Their take on the swimming pool scene in the remake is very good as well. But oh yeah, so great from start to finish. And probably I'll go there with you. I'll go that's the thing that put it over the top. That last scene. But if you haven't seen it, check it out. 2008, Let the Right One In, and then feel free to check out the remake as well, because that's one, and I go off on this every now and then. I still don't understand why the remake wasn't more of a hit.
No.
It came out around Halloween. It's bloodier.
Yeah.
It is bloodier than this one. So for people that want a real slasher type, bloodshed type movie, it was there. And it was good, and it just didn't get the audience. And I'm like, well, what do you want? Made me mad. But that's for another time. But Let the Right One In is at number 1. So as always, let us know.
Here's what they pick. People are going to Drag Me to Hell. That's good. So don't even complain. I'm telling you right now, we understand. We didn't put Drag Me to Hell on the list, and you're going to be mad. So we get it. Sam Raimi, we love him too. We're sorry.
Yeah.
It was a crowded decade.
It was. And that's, we started at the beginning by saying, we realized early on, this is the decade.
Yeah, it is.
That really, when you realize you have so many of great movies that get left off your top 5 list, then.
But you know what? The next decade, we didn't even talk about it. When you think about the first decade, you think about horror porn. And there are so many great movies that we didn't even have to consider horror porn.
Yeah, not a fan. Hostel 2, no, doesn't do it for me. But I know I know that those types of movies have their fans. So yeah, keep that feedback coming. We love it. Twitter is good as always. We're at MaddWolf, MaddWolf. You can go right to the Facebook page as well. However you want to get us, because we'd love to see where we're wrong, or if you agree with us, tell us that too.
And to tell you the truth, we thought we were going to stop. We thought we were going to stop today, and then we just realized already how many great horror movies there are just right now. So we're actually going to take this one more time. We're going to go the top 5 for the first 5 years of the next decade.
That's right.
2000 to 2005.
Yeah, there's some good...
excuse me.
2000 to 2015. Yeah, so if you have some good ideas there, and I bet you do, please let us know. This is the Fright Club podcast, and until next week...
Stay frightful, my friends.